All right, so we're diving into tales of murder, mystery, and suspenseful one, and I gotta say, this collection's got a little something for everyone.
Yeah, it's a real mix, kind of jumps between genres
Exactly, we've got those classic whodunits, but then it throws in some supernatural stuff and even some social commentary. It's pretty cool.
and all set in England.
Yeah, which gives it this timeless vibe, like it could be happening anywhere, anytime.
Right, that blend of modern and older settings.
Exactly, so let's jump right in with little Jimmy Slater. This story, it grabs you right from the get-go.
It really does. First line, boom, you're in the deep end. 13-year-old Jimmy's committing murder. And what's really messed up is there's no, like, typical motive. You know what I mean?
Right, there's none of the usual stuff you might expect, like, oh, he was abused or something.
Exactly. No trauma to try and explain it away.
It's like the author's tapping into those real-life cases psychopaths where you just can't figure out the why.
It makes you think, right? Like, what creates a killer?
For sure, but then it gets even more twisted because of the dramatic irony.
Ah, yes. The audience knows, but the characters are clueless.
Exactly. So we know Jimmy's a killer, but everyone in the story thinks he's this sweet, innocent kid.
Talk about appearances being deceiving.
Right. It's like a masterclass in how looks can be totally misleading.
And that gap between what we know and what they know,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the suspense comes in.
Totally. And the way the writer lays out these specific incidents, it shows you Jimmy's getting worse.
It's like a progression.
Yeah, like first it's animal cruelty, he drowns a puppy,
Gasses some lizards.
and it's not random, you know? It's calculated, like he's experimenting, which is just creepy.
Disturbing, for sure.
Then there's that whole school trip to London. He pushes a guy in front of a train, but then he gets frustrated.
Wait, frustrated.
Yeah, because the trip gets cut short.
So he's bummed he can't, kill more people.
Pretty much, it's like the killing itself becomes the addiction. He needs that thrill.
That makes sense. It ties into what we know about thrill-seeking killers. It's not about fulfilling a need. It's about the high, the power.
Wow, so if Jimmy ever got caught, could you imagine? Society would freak out, realizing they created this monster.
Absolutely. It'd make everyone question everything like, what are the signs we're missing? Are our systems failing to protect us?
Big questions, for sure.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely. Okay, so let's switch gears from little Jimmy Slater to a different kind of darkness. The underpass.
Ooh, this one's got a different vibe, yeah.
Totally. So we meet Mary. She's a widow, and she's walking to work through this, like, creepy underpass.
Instantly you feel for her, right? Vulnerable, alone.
Especially if you've ever walked alone at night, you get that feeling.
Absolutely. And there's this social commentary aspect too, Like she used to be so full of life, but now...
It's like society's forgotten about her. Like, what happens to the elderly?
Exactly. How we treat our most vulnerable.
And the attack, the way it's written, it's so vivid. You're right there with her.
The flickering lights. You can practically hear her heart pounding.
And then out of nowhere, someone or something intervenes.
Mystery savior. Who could it be?
Right. But just when you think you've got it figured out, Mary drops a bombshell. She thinks her dead husband saved her.
Whoa, that's a twist.
Is she hallucinating? Or could it be something more?
It's like the unreliable narrator thing. We can't quite trust what's real.
It makes you wonder, like, about the power of belief, especially when you're dealing with grief and loss.
Deep stuff.
Okay.
Okay, ready for something completely different? Let's talk about nice work if you can get it. Picture this. Two demons, Ransley and Elwood, just chilling by a fire in it.
Mhm.
You guessed it, hell.
It's not what you'd expect, though, right?
It's not at all. It's like they're just two regular guys griping about work.
And relationships. Elwood's bragging about his happy marriage, but of
It's
course.
a total disaster.
So we've got this dark humor, this satire on, like, everyday life, but set against the backdrop of hell.
It's brilliant, right? Like, it makes you think about the stuff we accept in our own lives, the compromises we make.
But then, bam, the story hits you with this reminder of where they actually are.
The trapdoor is like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is still hell, folks.
It's brutal, but also so clever how the author juxtaposes the mundane with the horrific.
Makes you think about denial, right? Our ability to adapt even to awful situations.
Totally. Okay, you ready for some psychological horror? Buckle up for the cutoff point. It starts with a man waking up on a coroner's table, paralyzed.
Talk about a way to start a story.
And the details, they're so unsettling, like he can feel his brain exposed.
And then there's Daguerre, the villain, who's basically torturing his wife's lovers.
And it's not just about killing them, it's about breaking them, dehumanizing them.
So messed up.
But then we learn about Burroughs, one of the victims, and he was genuinely in love with Olivia Daguerre's wife.
So tragic, especially when you compare his love to Olivia's coldness.
It makes you wonder if she even knows what her husband's doing, and if she does, wow, that says something about her, doesn't it?
Definitely dark.
Eh.
Okay, ready for our last story for this part. It's called Sarah, and it's heartbreaking. We meet Jerry, an 11-year-old orphan, and he's just surrounded by cruelty.
Yeah, the bullies are relentless.
And it's like, no one even tries to help him. Classic bystander effect.
Right, which makes you think about times you might have been a bystander too, you know?
Makes you examine your own actions.
Exactly. So Jerry finds this toy rabbit, Sarah, all beat up and stuff, and she becomes like a symbol for him.
Yeah, representing his own pain, his need for comfort.
And then the bullying gets even worse. He has to hide Sarah in his desk.
He was trying to protect the little bit of comfort he has left.
It's so sad. And then it gets even worse. The bullies throw Sarah into a tree, so Jerry has to climb up to get her.
Oh man, this is going to be bad, isn't it?
Yeah, the tension is killing me. Will he get her back? What will happen?
We'll have to wait for part 2 to find out.
Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Tales of Murder, Mystery, and Suspense Vol. 1. You ready to jump back in?
Absolutely. And this next story, A Special Kind of Love, it might surprise you.
Oh. How so?
Well, at first, it seems kind of straightforward, Historical drama set in 18th century England, King George III, lots of change happening.
Okay, I'm intrigued, so tell me more.
So it's about Elizabeth Barton, this young woman accused of treason. She's facing execution.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, and then we meet the executioner, who, as you might imagine, isn't exactly a ray of sunshine.
Right, not known for his cuddly personality.
But here's the thing. The story doesn't just leave him as this, figure of death. It actually humanizes him, makes him a real person.
I like that.
We see him struggling with his job. He's got a family, he's a man of faith, but his duty is to kill people.
That's a tough conflict for sure.
And the way the writer brings it out is so subtle. Like, the executioner notices that Elizabeth is different from other prisoners.
Different how?
She's calm, almost defiant. Like, even facing death, she's not giving up her power.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
Right. And then, this is the part that really got me. She asks to see the executioner's face.
Really? Why?
It's like she's demanding he acknowledge her humanity even in her final moments.
That's intense.
It forces him to see her as a person, not just a
Yeah.
condemned prisoner.
Makes you think about how we dehumanize each other, especially when it comes to violence.
Totally. And the writer doesn't shy away from the brutality of it all, like the execution scene. It's described in detail, no sugarcoating.
So we don't forget what's actually happening.
Right. And then afterward, the executioner, he's shaken. You can tell this one really got to him.
I can imagine.
He feels sorrow, a depth of emotion he's never experienced before.
Wow. So even the executioner, the one who's supposed to be detached, he's not immune to the impact of taking a life.
Nope. And it makes you question, right? Like, what is justice? What's the price we pay? Both the condemned and the ones who carry out the sentence.
Big questions for sure.
And the writer, he doesn't give us easy answers. He just lays it all out there.
I respect that.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got this executioner wrestling with his conscience, but then the story ends with him preparing for his next victim.
And it's this young guy accused of blasphemy, terrified, begging for mercy.
So it's like this contrast between Elizabeth's strength and this guy's absolute fear.
And it kind of shows you the cycle of violence, how it just keeps going.
It's heavy stuff, makes you think about the power dynamics, the consequences, the whole system.
Definitely leaves an impact. Speaking of impact, remember, Sarah, that cliffhanger we left on?
Oh yeah, poor Jerry, stuck up in that tree.
And the tension, the way the author builds it up, it's masterful.
You're just waiting for something terrible to happen, but hoping it won't.
And then it does. He falls, and he's gone. The bullies, they took his life just like that.
It's just awful, and it goes back to what we were saying about the bystander effect.
Right, like, what if someone had stepped in, said something? Could they have saved him?
It's a reminder that we can't just stand by and watch. We have to do something, anything.
But there's this other part of the ending that I found so interesting. Remember how Sarah, the rabbit, she represented Jerry's brokenness?
Yeah, his need for comfort in this awful world.
Well, after Jerry dies, Sarah comes to life.
Wait, what? The toy rabbit?
Yeah. And the author leaves it open to interpretation. Is it supernatural? Is it Jerry's spirit seeking revenge? Or is it just a symbol of hope surviving even in the face of tragedy?
I gotta admit, part of me wanted to see Sarah get some payback on those bullies. It felt like that's what Jerry deserved, even in death.
It's that desire for justice, right? The need to believe that good will prevail, even if it takes a strange form.
Okay, so we've got psychopaths, societal neglect, ghosts, heartbreaking loss. It's a lot to process. What's really stood out to you about these stories so far?
It's how the author uses these simple stories to talk about really complex stuff.
Evil, belief, the consequences of our actions, it all gets woven in.
And the way he blends genres, it keeps you guessing, keeps you thinking.
But we're not done yet. There's more to uncover in Tales of Murder, Mystery, and Suspense Vol. 1. Get ready for the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore those final twists and turns that make this collection so gripping. Welcome back, folks, to our final deep dive into Tales of Murder, Mystery, and Suspense Vol. 1. Now, one thing I've really loved about this collection, it's how the author keeps surprising you.
Oh, absolutely. Every story's got those moments where you're like, wait, what just happened?
Totally. It's like he sets you up, makes you think you know where it's going, and then bam, throws you a curveball.
Exactly. Keeps you on your toes.
Like with little Jimmy Slater, at first you're thinking, oh, what a sweet kid, and then you realize he's the one killing everyone.
Classic bait and switch.
Or in The Underpass, you think it's a random good Samaritan, and then boom, it's her dead husband.
Blurs the lines of reality there.
Right. But those twists, they're not just for shock value, are they?
No, they make you think, make you dig deeper into the themes.
Like with Jimmy, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about innocence, about evil.
And in The Underpass, it's about the power of belief, how our minds deal with grief.
It's like the author saying, don't take anything for granted, folks. Things aren't always what they seem.
And that ties into another big thing in this collection, this idea of darkness lurking beneath the surface of everyday life.
Yeah, like it's not just about ghosts and murders. It's about the darkness inside all of us, the potential for both good and evil.
We all have those shadows, right?
Yeah.
This collection, it just brings them to the forefront, makes you confront them.
Tales of murder, mystery, and suspense. It's not just a book. It's an experience. It makes you feel things, uncomfortable things sometimes.
Fear, sadness, even anger. It's a reminder that the world isn't always pretty.
And that brings me to my final thought for you all. What if we're the bystanders in these stories? The ones who see something wrong, but don't do anything.
That's a powerful question.
We might not be facing literal murderers, but we all see things, little injustices, people in need.
And what do we choose to do? Do we look away or do we step up?
Tales of murder, mystery, and suspense. It's not just entertainment, it's a challenge to be better, to be aware of the darkness, but to choose the light.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope it sparked some thought-provoking conversations, maybe even inspired you to look a little closer at the world around you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep those lights on.